Hello everyone and welcome once again to the Adventures Travel Club television show. Betty, we find ourselves once again on the Nile, and this is a beautiful part of the Nile. As you can see, all the area here with the cultivation, and in fact there's a little ship right in front of us, I think, with looks like sugar cane, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I look at that, and I drive in to work every day from Sanger, and we have a lovely little patches of green, like we don't have the background there, of course, but these beautiful Vietnamese and Hmong people have come in and made and planted, and they have little plots of green, just like you can see there. And they have the little red jackets. That's very, very nice.
But they don't have the Nile River.
They don't have the Nile River, unfortunately, no. They don't.
Well.
They have Jensen Avenue, which is running right by. But I was just referring to how it looks like it's plotted out. So presumably each one has a certain plot of their own, and that must be how it's marked off, do you suppose?
Probably, I think so. Or they're growing different crops, you know, of course, on in different little plots, I would suspect. But it is really quite beautiful here. And of course we can see how those stones are right there down by the water's edge, and of course that helps from all of the dirt falling right back into the river again, doesn't it?
That protects the coastline there. Other than that, the water would come up and wash more land away.
It probably would.
Then there'd be just the trees, and eventually there would, you know how that works.
There wouldn't be anything, right?
Yeah.
We are sailing on our way to Edfu, E-D-F-U, and I believe that's the way they pronounce it. But on our way, we can see here, Betty, they're working, of course, out there with the sand and the dirt, but you know, this sort of looks like what it might be like if you were really in the desert somewhere and one of those sandstorms came up. Yeah. Doesn't that look like that?
You know, I look at that, Marvin, I want to start coughing. Well, really.
Just the power of suggestion, right?
Yeah, because that's what that is. That's just plain old dust.
Dust and dirt.
Yes,
right.
Coming up.
And so, again, that's just part of the changing scenery that we do see here on the Nile River. And then, if you look a little bit further down the river where we are, and there's a little building way up on top of that hill, but look, there's not a blade of grass anywhere around, is there?
Now, you look at that terrain and you ask yourself, how did it get so bare, and how did the rocks, well, we know erosion,
like that,
but I think that was erosion just exposed the
but
rocks.
what you say, you know, you don't see any rain there, so that's probably one of the mysteries of the Nile. Anyway, the rocks did come down.
They did come down.
أحسن نبيل في البلد. يا أبي أدي المحرم جنبك هنا الحساب ها؟ ها؟ How much one kalish?
This horse fell down.
سليم يبقوا صف واحد ما تعرف. نعم لما ربنا يهديهم. ارجع.
Well, this was really surprising. My goodness sakes, the guy's horse fell down right there. But look at that. Evidently, there was nothing wrong with him because he got right back up again.
No, nothing wrong with him. Just overworked, underfed. No,
underpaid.
I'm really teasing.
No, but this is what surprised me because that horse they got it right back up again, and there we go.
It just could have gotten into a kind of a rut or something there, because if you look at them, they look well fed, they look well taken care of.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that they are. But
after all, they're money for the owners.
Yeah, they sure are.
You have to take good care of them. Anything produces money like that.
Well, you see, there were a lot of the tour boats that came in at one time, and so these little horse cabs that were here there's the international telephone service. That was a little problem in that part of Egypt to try and phone internationally. So they have little places that you can go to go ahead and pay in advance so that you pay. Yeah, sometimes we don't realize how easy it is for us here to go ahead and make an international or long distance call, and other places of the world it's not quite as easy.
Well, when you're on vacation, you just don't make international calls. If something's happening, don't learn about it. Just do your own thing.
Easy to say, but not always good to do. Anyway, this was quite a nice little ride. We got a chance to see part of the little town, and boy, they were really going at a gallop. In fact, we're going to come right here to an intersection. Watch out! Well, I don't know if that was the old gray mare that came up there or not. I'm not.
No, that's just an old horse. It's
just
gray.
Maybe it could be younger than the horse that we were going.
Yeah.
Anyway, we did get a chance to see a little bit of the town right here, and that was kind of interesting from the little perch that we had there right behind the horse.
Better than in a car or taxi. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I do too. You remember we did this down in Luxor too. You
Yeah.
know, we got a chance to.
That's when
tour
we lost
city.
the tape.
That's right. Yeah, that's when I lost the tape, unfortunately. Anyway. But we're going to come now close to the area because we are going to go see this temple, which, watch out, mister. Thank you very much. Okay. We're going to go see this temple, which is absolutely fascinating. It's one of the last temples, the last great ones that was built in Upper Egypt. But as you can see right now, we're just about ready to get out and look what's here. All sorts of people to sell us wonderful little souvenirs.
Everybody now. Let's go.
Well, Betty, there's your chance to buy something else there at that little market.
Yeah, but I did it. I was really good. I had somebody come in here the other day and ask me where I put all the things that I bought, and I said, I really don't. I just talk, I don't. If I buy something, it's a little something to hang up on the wall or to wear.
Right. Well, you could not have bought part of this temple, I don't think.
No, it would be hard to take it home.
Because they spent a lot of years excavating this, and this place was really magnificent. It was a lot bigger than I thought. In fact, especially when you have to walk around part of the temple to get there, and it was a rather warm day when we were there. But
what do you mean warm?
well, I mean,
Yeah, would you say hot?
yeah,
Okay.
it was hot. It was
A little
hot.
different than warm. It
really
was hot.
I think the whole trip, we had some nice warm days and some beautiful days. This was the hottest day. In fact, the camera got so hot I could hardly hang on to it that day. But
It was only the one day, and it
Yeah.
wasn't for all
Betty,
the
look
day.
here.
Yeah.
You can see here, part of this was a church at one time, and then later on it became a mosque. But so this building really had some, very interesting past. But we're going to learn about the beginnings of this particular temple, and our guide's going to give us a good explanation. So let's listen very carefully, shall we?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We came, ladies and gentlemen, to visit one of the most important temples in Upper Egypt. Here. Tell me to, because I want you to hear it. This is the temple of the god Horus, the falcon god. The son of Isis. We will see her temple tomorrow afternoon in Aswan on Philae Island. The son of Osiris, whose temple in Abydos, 160 kilometers to the north of Luxor. Osiris, Isis, and Horus was the first trinity they had in ancient Egypt. And according to a legend they had, it was said that the god Horus succeeded to arrest his uncle Set in this area. That's why they honored him here, and they built for him a lot of temples, and finally this big one. The second thing, to make it very important town in the past, they found here the remains of the capital of Upper Egypt last century, which was known as Nakhib, in which a ruler lived and he had his white crown. I will tell you a legend, perhaps you heard it before, but in different details. And it's behind the construction of the temple. And it's something to tell about the fight between good and evil since the beginning of the world, and to show finally always the God wins. Nut, the lady of the sky, together with her husband, the god Jet, the god of the earth, lived happily, and they had 2 sons and 2 daughters. Osiris and Set, the brothers, Isis and Nephthys, the sisters. Osiris married Isis, Set married Nephthys. But the question is, why Set hated his brother? Okay.
Gosh, Ralph.
That is Horus seed.
You're treated like a pharaoh here.
People noticed that Osiris was very kind, very nice, taught them how to be good farmers and good shepherds, solved a lot of problems, therefore they assigned him a ruler. So according to that legend, he was the first one who ruled them in ancient Egypt. Set, his brother, was jealous. He wanted to take that place, so he made a trick. It was a nice box at the same size of his brother's body. They said in a place it was made in cedar wood, inlaid with gold and precious stones. Many times pharaohs came to build something for Horus. 1500 BC, 1200 BC, 1100 BC, 600 BC. How do we know that? Names of pharaohs who dated back to those times. Finally, in the time of the Greek rulers, this temple was built in 180 years. Ptolemy III began the work in 237 BC. Dionysus, the father of Cleopatra, in 57 BC, finished the decoration of the pylon. 237 BC, that Holy of Holies, 57 BC, the decoration of the pylon. After the 10th, 11th century AD, everything started to fall down gradually. Before that, people lived inside. Look at the ceiling, you see nothing clear. Look at the second one, in the next place, beyond recognition. Because of those who lived here, surely they used fire, smoke appeared, their fuel dry plants, and after 1100 AD it began to fall down gradually. When that happened, they built on the top. Look at the level of the town, like in Esna. We owe much to a great French excavator called Mariette. He did his best here for 20 years, in 1860, 1880. He removed 44 houses on the top of the temple. He removed some 100 tons of rubble, sand, rubbish from here. Luckily he found the stones and he rebuilt them. The pylon we missed in Esna, and also no pylon in Komombo. Tomorrow morning we visit that temple. Nearly 140 feet high. And when you go outside later, back there, you will see the facade, and you will see again the punishment of the slaves before the god of the temple and representation of offerings. Look again at the entrance here, and one may imagine how high, how heavy, how weight the gate of the temple was. A very big gate fixed there with double leaves. Even from here you can see the two holes up. Also look at the next one, we will see it later. A very big relief decorating it. A relief of a falcon put on that gate. So it should be a ram in Esna, crocodile in Komombo, and so on. In that open court there are 32 columns, and they are in 3 rows. One behind the towers, and there are 2 more. 4 sacrifices, 4 purification, to celebrate feasts, to invited guests, and so on. There are 2 halls of columns. We are in the first, in which 18 columns. The second one, 12. Again, in the second one, there are 3 rows, but 4 in each one. You may remember in Esna, you saw that screen wall. It's the same. Few scenes here still with their colors. Look above the entrance here. And some parts back there, the capitals that half, and very few anyway inside any room. That very small room used as purification room, were to keep pots, jars full of water for the sake of their purification, which was brought from the river, from the lake of the temple, or the Nilometer of the temple. We will see it later. Another room used as a local library. Some important religious books kept there. You see, ladies and gentlemen, many scenes were defaced. on the columns, on the walls, in many places. That was in 379 AD when that religion died, and some fanatic people in the Roman time came to attack them so as to end that religion. After that, we proceed to the second hypostyle hall of columns, and I will tell you about the steps that they had to follow when they came to build a temple and dance. You know that one of her forms, a lady with the horns of a cow on desk. She had a temple in a town called Dendra, nearly 200 kilometers from here. You know before that because they didn't live together, they had to meet. They had to stay together 20 days, and that was their yearly honeymoon. When the time came, the high priest of her temple, with the help of some, had to go in that holy of holies there to carry the sacred boat of Hathor, to walk 10-15 minutes till the quay. They put her boat on larger one. They sailed all the distance till here. The procession of her husband had to meet them down in the river, carrying it together till keeping both in a room inside known as the honeymoon room. Let me remind you with the story of Amun and his wife Mut when they celebrated Obed feast. But over there, the procession of Hathor, the procession of Amun, had to walk back in the avenue of sphinxes. Do you remember that? You saw the avenue, it's beginning in Luxor, its end in Karma. In the late time, once they took his boat to her temple, and once they brought her temple to the temple of her husband. The back wall here representing the form of a pile, but no pylon to separate between this first one and the next one. I show you the steps that they had to follow when they came to build a temple inside.
But there's a lot of information there, but we never did finish the story that he started way at the beginning about Osiris and his brother Set. Yeah, you've got some information on that, don't you?
Yeah, no, after coming home, when I came home, I did some research on it. Unfortunately, I should have done it before I left, but mythology mixed up with reality becomes a very hard thing to absorb, you know, and then we looked at all the paintings, and now I know a little bit more what they represent, but of all the gods and goddesses of Egypt, the best known are probably Isis and Osiris, because Osiris was regarded as the earliest king of Egypt who brought the Egyptians out of savagery. And he gave them laws, and he taught them how to cultivate the land. Now this is the part that you pause and think about a little bit. He married his sister, Isis, and then his brother Set got mad because he got to be the king, okay? So Set, who was Osiris's brother, killed his brother. Okay, so his wife now was really crushed. She missed her husband so much. Now remember, they were brother and sister. So she prayed to the gods, and they had him resurrected so she could have a baby, so she could get impregnated with the dead. I lose fact of of the names of them as I go along. But so she did have a baby, and then he died again. But instead of going and living on the land, they put him in charge of the underground. So he was the god of good in the underground, and then Set became the god of evil. And it's
but now Set was jealous of Osiris.
Oh
right?
yeah, that's why he killed him.
But then didn't he chop his body up and put him in all sorts of different places?
And he put them all over. They found the head in one place, and then the arms and legs in other places. But the gods put them all back together again, and then he was able to impregnate his sister, and she had a baby, and that baby became the king. And so what is happening then is that the Osiris is known, well then he became Horus, and he's known as the good person, and Set became the bad person. And
so that was a struggle then, kind of about the good and evil that he told us about a little bit earlier.
Good and evil.
And we just saw a little bit about this boat that we saw, but let's go and listen to our guide one more time here as he explains a little bit more in this area.
But we had a chance here in a room inside to show you a replica of a boat made in 1880 by some fanatic people came from the north. They stopped in every temple for a few days. They spent them defacing, chiseling, attacking the figures of gods, goddesses next to that kings and queens. Why? To show people who still believed in them they were nothing, they had no power. And that was the end of that religion. You can say simply the end of that religion, the time. Roman Emperor called Theodosius. People who lived in these places left more destruction. I mean, after the end of that religion, 400, nearly 1100 AD, when they came to use these roof places. Sometimes they left holes. You see them in different places, in which they put a piece of wood, a piece of metal as pegs to hang on them things they had. Sometimes they made holes like one in that half, small hole, in which you can put the whole bag as a place for keeping their oil lamps. Nectanebus, who ruled 340-332 BC. They intended to build a temple here. And two things left here in his time. A stone table on which the boat would be put, and a chapel which is one block of granite. The whole thing in front of you, one piece. The name, the cartouche of the king, is the evidence. He was defeated by Alexander the Great, 332 BC. No more pharaohs. You know that Alexander claimed that he was a pharaoh. They stayed in Alexandria. Ptolemy I did nothing. Before him, Alexander did nothing. Alexander's men came to Luxor, to the Karnak temple. In the time of Ptolemy III, nearly a century, or after a century, during that century, nobody did anything here. Ptolemy III decided to build a big temple for Horus. Horus that time became the most important one, not Ammon. And they called him Apollo of Egypt. Even the town known as Apollopolis, the town of the god Apollo. His men built the rest of the room. His successors after that continued their work till the Bible. 237 BC, 57 BC back there. The second thing, we notice here, this is the smallest place, the highest one, the most sacred one. Look at the rest. Maybe because the priests of the temple were of many classes. Category. According to their class, they were allowed to proceed. If you say 200 priests were here in Edfu to serve Horus, all had the right to be in the open court. Half or less than half of them could be in the first hall of columns where we stood in the beginning. Less and less till 20 may be here in this vast antechamber room, the helpers of the high priest, to pray with him, the last hymn, to carry sacrifices, to open the entrance. Every entrance you left should have a gate with double leaves. Look at the top here. You can see the two holes up, all in cedar wood. When he came in, they should wait outside. He had to pray, as you know, the same story, in the morning, at time, in the evening, 3 times a day, and to bring the food. One asked about that food before. Sacrifices, good food, offerings, and so on. What about them? The golden statue which was kept in the boat, of course, didn't eat them. The answer is, few minutes later he came back to take that, giving it to his staff, believing that the soul of that deity ate what he or she wanted. So the priests of the temple always ate the best food. Look at the top of that Naus, that shrine on peace, shaped like a pyramid. And here, if you have the list of the kings, you will see this is the last name, Nectanebus. And here he is titled Son of the Sun. Do you see it? The ruler of Upper and Lower Egypt. The same given to every field. Some S-O-N as a verb. Do you see it? Do you or not? Yes. Some S-O-N, some desk. Ruler like half a circle and two lines down. Over what? Upper and Lower Egypt. B and bamboo. So you can see here B next to it bamboo. Of course, the chiselers left many scenes, and they were very important, and they attacked a lot. The tag the god taught, the scribe god, who's recording the name of the king and his wife.
Well, Betty, he's given us a lot of information here, and it's a little hard sometimes to hear in the temple. And we're in the Holy of Holies. This is the area where we are right here. And as he explained, this is a little higher elevation than the other rooms in this particular temple. Now, I thought the interesting thing was, too, is that he said that there were probably like 400 of the priests, and they probably were from different classes. And there is what we understand, or what I understand, and we'll see it in a little bit. See, now you could see, you go down as you were to the entrance, and back there in the Holy of Holies, that was a little bit higher. That there's a ceremonial boat, and that was evidently carried into the Holy of Holies, and I believe that was loaded down with all the goodies that he was talking about, all the food. And so then when the doors were closed and the lesser priests, left, the higher guys there in the inner sanctum there, the Holy of Holies in the temple, were able to go ahead and have all that good food.
They had a feast. Well, see, the thing you call it the Holy of Holies.
That was the room, or the temple.
But we think of the Holy of Holies more in the time of Jerusalem and Jesus' time, or the Old Testament
that would have been
Jesus.
Old Testament, right? Yeah. Now this, I believe, that's the ceremonial boat, and that should have been probably in that other room, from the way that I understood it.
Now, is that a replica of the boat that the kings, the gods, rode in themselves?
I think it probably was, but then that was probably the boat that the mythological gods, probably were supposed to travel in too, I believe. I'm not sure. I don't know. We got to go back and find out, right?
It isn't that we're so dense, but it's just there was too much at one time to absorb.
There's so much stuff, and you have to figure. You're talking about 30 dynasties here. I mean, this is a long time, and several hundreds of years, and probably 1,000 years or more. But it was just fascinating, and there's a lot more to learn. But if you want to learn about any of the trips that we've got coming up, give Betty a call at 488-7443, and she'll give you some information. Betty, it's just about time for us to say goodbye. So we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.